You know I have to start with like tweeting this, so just give me 1 second. I'm a professional, so this will only take a second. All right. I want to start off by thanking President Coleman, all the graduates, friends and family, faculty of course, and finally the Board of Regents who sit behind me quietly judging us all. I'd like to also take a moment to thank my mother and father who are here today, and I'd like all of you to remember at the end of the day to take a moment to thank your parents or whoever it was that helped you get where you are today. They have sacrificed greatly for you, and we'll be out of here by 3:30, I promise. When I woke up this morning and started writing my speech, I was thinking about my first month on campus in September when I was a freshman, and the football team went into that season ranked #1 in the nation preseason. And there was all this, I remember that September when I got here, there was all this excitement on campus, and our first game was at Wisconsin, and we went up there and we lost the first game 14, and there was this just crushing disappointment afterwards. And I'd like you to think of that soaring expectations followed by crushing disappointment as a metaphor for your next 20 minutes with me. When I was sitting where you are so many years ago, but what seems to me really like just yesterday, I was earning my degree in computer science, and yay nerds. At the time, the CS department was in the School of Literature, Science, and the Arts, so I had to have a certain number of arts credits to graduate. And so my first semester senior year, I decided, well, I'll take an acting class because I'm just going to pander to the crowd. That's the kind of person I thought I'll take an acting class because we won't have a lot of homework, and I'll go in and we'll say Arthur Miller lines to each other, and then I can work on my operating systems programs at night. And I loved the class so much that my second semester senior year, I took another acting class, and in fact I started doing stand-up comedy, which I'd never done before, at the Michigan Union at the U Club. So that by the time I was sitting where you guys are today with my CS degree, I had offers from 3 technology companies to go work for them as a programmer, but I decided instead that what I would do is move to Chicago, try to get into the improv comedy group Second City, and go on from there to Saturday Night Live and ultimate fame and glory. Now, in the Hollywood version of my story, what would happen is there would be about 3 minutes where I would move to Chicago and I would suffer mightily, probably at night or in the rain. There would be music in the background, and I would come home at night to a dog in a giant loft that I could somehow miraculously afford and fall asleep. And after those 3 minutes, I would be discovered by the director who would cast me in a film, and I'd walk down the red carpet, and my parents would be across the red carpet giving me the thumbs up. In the real world story of what happened when I decided to make a big bet on myself and take the chance to do this because it's what I loved, I was grinding away for a long time, and I had no money, and we would rehearse during the day and perform in these little theaters at night for free. And I was taking classes during the day at Second City as well, trying to learn improvisation. And I eventually had to get odd jobs because I had no money, so I put my CS degree from Michigan to use wrapping flatware and selling play settings at Crate and Barrel. But while I kept on improvising in Chicago for many years, I want to tell you 2 lessons I learned in that very first year there, learning at Second City. The first one was, we had this director at Second City who was instructing a class I was in named Don DePaulo. And there were 4 people up on stage, there were about 10 of us in the class, and these guys are improvising that they're in a laundromat. And the scene ends, and Don asks all of us in the room, what do you see up there on that stage right now? And there was nothing up there, so we described what we see up on the stage. It's an empty stage. And Don says, so far today, you guys have improvised that you're in an apartment, a laundromat, an apartment. What are you afraid of? We all kind of looked at each other like, what do you mean, what are we afraid of? And he said, you need to make more courageous choices. The reason the stage is completely empty and doesn't have a set on it is so that you can go out there and be in the Keebler-Elf factory, or be on the space shuttle as an astronaut who's never even tried to fly a plane before. Make bigger choices, take courageous risks. And a few months later, I was studying in Second City with another legendary director there, Martin DeMott, and Steve Carell was out on stage. Steve and I were in the same group, and he was improvising something, and I was backstage, and I thought of this amazing line. And I thought, I gotta go out there and get into the scene, and I'm gonna get this line out. And so I enter the stage, and I try to start moving the scene in the direction of what I wanted to say, and Martin stops the scene, says, stop. And he says to the whole class, but really he's talking to me, he says, you can't plan a script. The beauty of improvisation is you're experiencing it in the moment. If you try to plan what the next line is supposed to be, you're just going to be disappointed when the other people on stage with you don't do or say what you want them to do, and you'll stand there frozen. Be in this moment. He stopped everyone in the room and said, all of you, right now, be in this moment. Now be here in this moment. Now be here in this moment. I continued to stay in Chicago and improvise there for many years, and ultimately got lots of auditions for shows and got none of them. Fortunately, during this time, the internet happened. And that was great, because when the internet happened, I know it's funny to you guys, when I was your age, we didn't have the internet in our pants. We didn't even have the internet not in our pants. That's how bad it was. I know I sound like my grandfather right now. We didn't have teeth. There were no question marks. We just had words. What was I talking about? Yeah. So I dove into the internet because I saw it as this extensible structure that had these amazing possibilities. And I created a sequence of companies over the course of the next 20 years that led me to Twitter. If there's ever an example of the importance of making bold bets and focusing on what you love, it's Twitter. When Twitter co-founder Jack Dorsey talks about the origins of his thinking for the product, he talks about his fascination with maps. He talks about his ultimate fascination with dispatch systems as he studied maps and the more efficient way of getting things like taxis and ambulances to where they needed to go more quickly. And when he sent out his first tweet, just setting up the Twitter, he didn't plan for President Obama to declare victory on that platform in the 2012 election. None of us at Twitter thought during the earthquake and ensuing tsunami in Fukushima, Japan, that our service would be a great alternative communication platform if the mobile networks in Japan were spotty in the aftermath. And certainly none of us even hoped, let alone considered, that our platform would be one of those used to organize protests across the Middle East and Tunisia and Iraq and Egypt during the Arab Spring. Here's the amazing thing about what I've observed when I've witnessed all those things. Not only can you not plan the impact you're going to have, you often won't recognize it even while you're having it. A few months after I started at Twitter, Russian President Medvedev was coming to the office. And that morning, going into the office, the streets were all completely blocked off by the San Francisco police, and the U.S. Secret Service was there, and Russian security forces were there. And so it was this crazy scene walking into the building. And I remember going through the metal detector to get into our office, which was there just for the day, and there were these guys in these crazy uniforms with these beautiful German shepherds that looked like they could kill you standing right next to them. And so there was just this huge buildup, and President Medvedev came into the office with his entourage, and there were all these reporters and cameras behind him, and he was going to send out his first tweet from the office to the rest of the world, and everyone was waiting for that to happen. And as he was walking down the hall, taking a tour of the office before going to send his first tweet, I get a tap on my shoulder, and I turn around and I say, "What is it?" And this person says to me, "The site's down." And being the, thoughtful, charismatic leader that I am, I said, like, totally down? Totally down. So the next day, you guys and the rest of the world read President Obama welcoming Russian President Medvedev to Twitter and declaring that we maybe no longer needed the red phone anymore because we could now use Twitter. But for me, that moment was, the site is down. And it's always like that, not the site is down part. The impact is what others frame for you and the world after it happens. The present is only what you're experiencing and focused on right now. And every so often, my past and present come together. I was invited to this fundraiser at this children's hospital in the Bay Area last year, and Steve Carell was the guest speaker. And so I took a photocopy of this review of the group that Steve and I were in Chicago over 25 years ago to the charity auction. And I showed it to Steve when I got a chance to talk to him. He's mobbed the whole time by people, but we got a chance to have a brief conversation, and we looked at this photocopy of the review and talked about the different people in the group and where they were now. And we kept in touch with some, but not with all of them. And at the end of that conversation, Steve patted me on the back and he said, "I'm really sorry it didn't work out for you." You cannot draw that path looking forward. You cannot draw any of your paths looking forward. So you have to figure out what you love to do, what you have conviction about, and go do that. Here's the challenge. So far, you guys have gotten where you are by meeting and exceeding expectations. You are awesome. You have excelled. Look at you. You look like an amazing giant choir. But from here on out, you have to switch gears. You are no longer meeting and exceeding expectations. There are no expectations. There's no script. When you're doing what you love to do, you become resilient because that's the habit you create for yourself. You create a habit of taking chances on yourself and making bold choices in service to doing what you love. If, on the other hand, you do what you think is expected of you or what you're supposed to do, and things go poorly, or chaos ensues, as it surely will, you will look to external sources for what to do next, because that will be the habit you've created for yourself. You'll be standing there frozen on the stage of your own life. If you're just filling a role, you will be blindsided. Here's the other problem. I don't feel like I can stand here and tell you to try to have an impact, because the problem seems so massive. It seems impossible to make any impact at all, and you just end up feeling like you can't do anything. Just thinking about it, Syria and Iran and North Korea, as you go through that list, it makes me want to sweat, and not just because I'm wearing this robe that has no natural fibers in it. I think this was synthesized from tractor fuel 3 days ago. So instead, what I implore you to do is believe that if you make courageous choices and bet on yourself and put yourself out there, that you will have an impact as a result of what you do, and you don't need to know now what that will be or how it will happen, because nobody ever does. So I like to think of you guys in the metaphor of my early improv days as having been backstage preparing, and you are here now, and look at everything you've accomplished. It's remarkable. You are just all so amazing to me, and I'm so proud of everything you've done. But as you get ready to walk out under the bright lights of the improvisational stage of the rest of your life, I implore you to remember those 2 lessons I learned years ago. Be bold. Make courageous choices for yourself. Be in the Keebler Elf factory. What are you afraid of? And secondly, don't always worry about what your next line is supposed to be. What you're supposed to do next. There's no script. Live your life. Be in this moment. Be in this moment. Now be in this moment. 20 years from now, you will be sitting in a different seat in this stadium. And you will be lying in a field looking up at the clouds, and you will be holding a patient's hand, walking into surgery, and you will be grading or evaluating a student's essay, and you will be sitting on the sidelines of your daughter's soccer practice, and you will be standing behind this podium. Be right there and nowhere else in that moment. Soak it all in, and remember to say thank you. Thank you, #GoBlue.